Om Namah Shivaya. Episode 21, Chapter 5, verses 21 to 26. Relative and absolute happiness. Verse 21 tells us that happiness can be experienced at two levels. First, at its relative level, and second, at its absolute level. The first line of verse 21 says that as karma yogis, we experience relative happiness as we are cheerful and contented people, doing our righteous duties as an offering to Ishvara, and able to take whatever the results may be as Ishvara's prasadam, without attachment to external sense object. Bhaya sprasheshu asakta atma vindati atmani yat sukham. And the second line says that as men of wisdom, jnanis, we experience absolute happiness as our intellect is endowed in the knowledge of Brahman, that we are Satchit Ananda Atma, Param Shanti. In every situation, in every moment, we revel in Satchit Ananda Atma. Thereby, our mind does not wax and wane. Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma Sukham Akshayam Ashnute. And verse 22 tells us that as karma yogis and jnanis, we do not revel in sense pleasure, because we know when our sense organs contact sense object, in that contact there is enjoyment, which is the potential source of all sorrow. Dukkha yonaya evate. It has a beginning and an end. Adi antavanta. Even before we gain this contact, there is sorrow, because we have to work for this desire. Our sense organs must be in alignment with this sense object. So we have either to go towards this sense object, or we have to bring the sense object to us. If it is a mountain that we want to visit, then we have to go to the mountain. We have to put an effort to climb that mountain. And when that contact takes place, that happiness may or not be according to what our expectation was. If it is not, we will be in sorrow. If it is to our expectation, there will still be sorrow, because we know it will come to an end. So instead of enjoying that joy, we will be in sorrow. And finally, when it comes to an end, we are in sorrow. Therefore, before gaining this sense pleasure, there is sorrow. While enjoying it, there is sorrow. And at the end, there is sorrow. That is why men of wisdom do not revel in sense pleasure. They know they do not give us absolute happiness. Verse 23 tells us that as karma yogis, we are indeed happy people, as we are able to master the force born of desire and anger here in this world. This is the entire psychology of the Gita, to master the force born of desire and anger. Kama krodha udbhavam vegam. This force indicates the intensity of our desire, and the intensity of our anger when it is not fulfilled. And this is the force that we must master before we drop this body, before we die. Prag shariram vimokshanat. A prayerful attitude is an indication of a matured person. And as a matured person, we must do our duties as an offering to Ishvara, the law of dharma that is governing the universe, without any binding desires. Then only we will be able to master the force born of desire and anger. Once we have mastered this force, we are sarva karmas sannyasa yogis. We are matured, happy people. Sayukta sasukhi naraha. And once we are sarva karma sannyasa yogis, we experience relative happiness. And when we expose our intellect to the knowledge of Brahman, and when it is converted to wisdom, we experience absolute happiness. And in verse 24, Sri Krishna uses 3 beautiful words to describe this absolute happiness. First he said, Antar Sukha. We are fulfilled with our own self alone. The fulfillment is with ourself, as we know that we are Satchit Ananda Atma. We are Purna. We lack nothing. So the fulfillment is with ourself alone. And number 2, Antar Arama. We revel in ourselves. We amuse ourselves by ourselves. We do not need external object to amuse ourselves. Our mind itself is like an amusement park. All our past psychic impressions are in our mind. And as they keep arising, we amuse ourselves. Whether they are happy incidents or sad incidents, it does not matter, because we do not identify ourselves with this body, mind, senses. We are Satchit Ananda Atma. And third, Antar Jyoti, like light, our mind illumines object to be seen. We see the entire creation as one pure consciousness. From the mighty ocean to the smallest ant, we see that pure consciousness. That pure consciousness is our thought. And this thought is now in Satchit Ananda Atma, absolute bliss. We lack nothing. We are Brahman, Brahma Bhuta. We are liberated, Brahma Nirvanam. In verse 25, Sri Krishna goes on to summarize the topic on Sarva Karma Sannyasa Yogis. And here we are called sages, rishis, because number 1, we are Shina Kalmasa. All our impurities have been destroyed by living a life of karma yoga and inquiring into the knowledge of Brahman. Number 2, we are Chinna Dveda. All our doubts have been resolved. Doubts like, what is Atma? Is Atma one or many? What is our relationship with Ishvara and the universe? What is the principle that is governing this universe? Are we Satchit Ananda Brahman? How is Atma? Is Brahman? All these we have analyzed and removed all doubts. Number 3, we are Yata Atmana. We have mastery over our 5 senses of perception and 5 powers of action. Thereby, we are Sarva Bhuta Hita Rataha, joyously doing our righteous duties for the benefit of all mankind. We observe non-violence and we ensure that all our words, action and thought does not hurt anyone. And in verse 26, Sri Krishna summarizes this topic on Sarva Karma Sannyasis, and he lists an order how to work towards moksha. Number 1, we must be free from desire and anger. Kama Krodha Viyuktanam. Number 2, we must have mastery of our mind. Yata Chetasam. Number 3, we must know that Atma is Brahman. Vidit Atmanam. We must know that we are Satchit Ananda Atma. Thereby we are liberated. We are free. We are Jivan Muktas. This freedom can be seen at 2 levels. First, while living as Jivan Muktas and completing our prarabdha karmas, we are free from the limitation of our body, mind, senses. And second, when we die, when we drop this body, there is no rebirth. We are Abhito Brahma Nirvana. At verse 26, we shall take a break, and after that, the last 3 verses of chapter 5 is an introduction to meditation. So till then, Om Namah Shivaya.